One of these men is a highly respected New York attorney, Lucas A. Ferrara. The other is a self-proclaimed man of the people, known as Mert Roberts. Their aim is to discuss the hottest issues impacting our city, state, and nation. Fasten your seatbelts. Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live, starts now on AM 970. The Answer.
Now, if I were you, I would keep those seatbelts securely fastened. I mean, you could loosen them up just a little bit. But that segment with, I thought that segment with Hogan Gidley was amazing. He's a great guy, and very grateful that the Deputy Press Secretary for the Trump White House came and joined us this evening. It was a great honor. In a few minutes, we're going to be joined by Heidi Byerly, who has a new book that is out, and we're going to be talking to her about Heidi Across America, one woman's journey on a bicycle through the heartland. Sounds like a compelling story. Look forward to chatting with her in a little bit. So the first segment, first hour, we were talking about the craziness, the woke craziness, and we were talking about how Delta is going crazy and knocking out the phrase "ladies and gentlemen," no longer allowing that phrase to be used. Now, in stark contrast to this attention that Delta is giving to the 1/3 of 1% of the population, according to Pew Research, 42.5 million Americans have disabilities. That's about 13% of the population, a significant number. Yet, the majority of these individuals earn less, have a lower rate of technology adoption, and still have significant accessibility issues, whether it's public transportation or the workplace. And if you want to focus on DEI concerns, I mean, why isn't there more focus on these 13% of the population? Because there's still disparities, still inequities. Why aren't we addressing that? Alex, I know you had some thoughts about that.
I mean, obviously, we just passed Disability Pride Month, but I always want to encourage more people with disabilities to be hired and to earn more. And, you know, I think that there's a couple things with the DEI. Is it possible that DEI knocks out a qualified disabled person? Let me throw that to you, Lucas, because it very well might. But secondly, if you're a minority and you're hired, whether disability or, you know, whatever it may be, I feel like companies make a big deal of it. Like, oh, look at us. Here we are. We just hired a minority. We just hired someone with disabilities. I don't think that should be right either. I think people should just be hired and not made a big deal about. I mean, we're not here to be inspirational. We're here to work, you know?
Well, Alex, let me get in here for a second. I think that you're not understanding why they're doing it, because part of building upon society and making everything better and making it greater for people with disabilities or minorities is you got to highlight the great works they do. See, without highlighting what a great disabled worker is doing, you don't bring attention to it. So other people might not be inclined to hire a disabled person because they just don't have a clue. They might have prejudices, not out of malice, but just, you know, well, I don't want to put too much on that person's plate. Like you, for example, Alex, you bust your butt, you're behind, you're in there 7 days a week sometimes, all kind of crazy hours, putting in a lot of dedicated hours of work. You're working harder than a lot of able-bodied people. You're working way harder than me. I give you credit for that. I don't know if I could keep up with your schedule. But the fact that you don't get highlighted and celebrated, and we don't have news clippings, and you're not on CNN and Fox, like, this is what's possible. Even if you have a disability, you can still do it like Alex is doing. If people were to do that for you, just imagine how far that would go into promoting disabled people and what they can do in the workforce. So I disagree with you when you say we should just treat y'all, or treat us, because I'm African American, just treat us like average, regular people. Because in certain instances, we weren't average, regular people. We were thought of as less than.
But on the flip side, Mert, here's how I would see it, is that if you make a big deal of it, it makes it feel less genuine. Like, oh, look at us, we did this and this, that. It doesn't feel as genuine as when you just hire someone.
That's right.
Am I right or wrong?
That's the virtue signaling I was talking about earlier, Alex. You're absolutely right.
Well, a part of marketing is you're always going to be a little bit disingenuous, and you're going to try to blow stuff up to make it look better than it actually is. But sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes you have to infuse a little enthusiasm into something that normally wouldn't be that enthusiastic of a response. I mean, if you're just going to work and you just flip hamburgers, all right? Well, maybe if I say you're the best hamburger flipper of all time, you flip 30 hamburgers a second or something like that, something crazy. People would be like, wow, that person must be great. Let me go check this out, or let me hire this person, or let me hire somebody similar to this person so that our company can get these same benefits, because everybody's not going to look at it the same way. Sometimes people will be inspired when you least expect them to, and sometimes you have to add a little seasoning on top of whatever it is and just, talk it up a little bit. And if you feel like it's disingenuous, that's just you. But trust me, sometimes you have to add, that's all advertising, that's all marketing. We all do that. That's what America is built upon. We say we're the greatest, but that's not always true. There's certain
but you know what? There's some of that, Mert. There is some of that. But I think there's also hypocrisy. Because if this is about diversity and equity and inclusion, then that should include the 42 million people who still don't have access to some subway stations. I mean, the other day, Alex was telling us about the difficulty he was having with the train. What was that? Remind us of that story, Alex.
Oh, which one do you want? No, I'm kidding.
Well, both. Tell both, because that one with the ticket taker.
Well, yesterday
that was unfortunate.
Yesterday was pretty wild, and that was more of an issue of being looped in to a situation with someone with an invisible disability was on the train with a half-fare card, and the ticket collector outright says to him, "Oh, you don't have a disability," and then he points to me, and he goes, "See, now I know he has a disability because he has crutches and one leg." He didn't say that part, but he just pointed to me. And I maybe I shouldn't have felt offended, but I kind of did, because why are you looping me into this situation? Why do I have to look a certain way to fit your vision of being disabled? I feel like there should be a more open mind to invisible disability as well as physical.
Yeah, but I bet he doesn't say ladies and gentlemen, okay? See, this is what I'm trying to say. This is hypocrisy. I'm sure he's very sensitive to how to speak to a colleague and not use sir, madam, or any gender-identifying language, but he could make an inappropriate comment about disability. There's a hypocrisy, Mert. That's the point.
Well, you got to be careful, because responding to that story Alex just gave, if we just allow people, and this is the problem we have with this transgender deal, if we just allow people to say, hey, I'm disabled, and we can't see it, you got to be careful with that, because I know people who would take advantage of that. Oh, I have a mental condition where it doesn't allow me to pay for stuff, so I steal. I could see.
Yeah, but you know what the problem is? It's not for the ticket collector to make that determination.
Oh, yes, it is, because if somebody's trying to get onto the train and they don't actually have a disability, like, you can go steal one of those cards from somebody, right? You can
you
do
can
that.
Even make them, but that's not the point. The point is there really are no true cards for showing someone is disabled, and I'm not even sure what the definition of disability is anymore. Alex.
I disagree. You have to be careful. Go ahead, Alex.
Sure.
No, yeah, well, and I wouldn't have been raising a case about this if I didn't go up to talk to the person that was at the center of all this. I asked him, what is your disability? Because I was just curious. He said, well, my back. I've had a bad back. I've had this and the other for 9 years. And, once I started talking to him, I realized he was not being a fake about it. And I just agree with Lucas. If they're going to have the ticket already in their hand, I wouldn't question at that point. I mean, it just... And the aftermath was 6 cops were sent down to the train for a $3 extra fare. 6 cops were sent for this one guy out of millions. And it bothered me, that's all. That's why I ranted about it.
Wow. So ultimately, he got to stay on and at the disability fare. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because he snuck away. He got away before the cops actually arrived from the train. So, I was kind of glad he got away, just because he was given such a hard time. And I'm at this point where if you're going to tell someone, no, you don't have a disability, that's just not right in any case. Mert, you might disagree with me on that, but that's not the way you speak to someone.
Yeah. Well, see, the problem, Mert, is that there are many people who have what's called asymptomatic disabilities, which are those that cannot be perceived. The easiest example I can give you is, for example, AIDS. I know AIDS now is treatable, but AIDS for a while was considered a disability, but it's not something that you can see.
You mean HIV? Or you mean AIDS? Well, HIV, right?
Yeah, that you can't see. Okay, so that is a disability under the law. So
that's a disease.
Yeah, but it's
HIV
also
is a disease. It's a disease. See, a disability is like you're blind.
No, it's not that simple, Alex.
I don't think it's that simple anymore. I think there's a lot of different levels of disability now that have to be more respected. Now, you talk about one more accessibility story. My fiance and I had to roll all the way from Patterson, New Jersey to Hawthorne because the Hawthorne train station was not accessible. I mean, in 2024, you mentioned accessibility, whether it's elevator outages or the fact that some train stations are still not accessible. How come more people aren't raising Cain about this?
Because they're focused on other priorities, my friend. That's the point. Right?
You know why it is? Is because everything's being jumbled up because there's nothing definitive. Alex, you're disabled. Your fiance, she's disabled. This guy with the bad back, who doesn't have a bad back? I have a bad back. Everybody could say they're disabled in some way. I wear glasses. I can't see straight sometimes. Everybody would use this to get a reduction in their fare, and it just mucks up the process. So this guy, he's seen this over and over again. You see people trying to take advantage of those who need it most. Alex, you need that reduced fare. Your fiance, she needs ramps. She needs to be able to access these things. If we are prioritizing people with asymptomatic disabilities,
I wouldn't say prioritizing. We got to include them, though. That's my point. Is that to include them, not turn a blind eye to them.
Well, if we include everybody, then you're going to have to wait. Then that's the problem. They should address the people who need it the most first. You need it the most. Your fiance needs it the most. This guy who doesn't appear disabled with a bad back, he doesn't need it as much. And that's what you have to do.
Lucas,
you have to make tough decisions.
You can't prioritize disabilities. That's almost an impossibility. To say, if you're blind, okay, that's easy. But if you suffer from depression, you're not disabled. No, it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. There are gradations of disabilities. There are different kinds of disabilities. It is not for a ticket collector to make that determination. Not anymore. Because the definition of disability has gotten gray. It's not just physical.
And we've allowed it. Allowed it to get gray.
And again, if he didn't point to
me,
if he didn't point to me, I wouldn't have thought anything of it because it's like, okay, I get this dispute. But when he looked at me, it gave me this idea that in this collector's head, he has an idea of what disability looks like. That's my biggest issue here.
That's right.
So were you offended because you were offended?
He's not sensitized.
You out?
See, I bet he's sensitized to gender issues. That's my point, trying to connect to the earlier discussion.
But Lucas, did you hear what I asked Alex? This is what I want him to clarify. Were you offended by him saying, "Hey, Alex," saying, "Hey, that guy over there, he's disabled. You're not." That offended you?
I'm offended that that's his only vision of someone with disability. That's what I'm offended at the most.
It's certainly inappropriate, and it was not an appropriate comment, Mert, in my view. It was not. It's not for him to recognize and say publicly, yes, that person's disabled, but you're not. What is up with that?
I'm going to trust that train operator because I know exactly what he's going through because we're doing this thing where we try to politically correct real life. And in real life, this guy is seeing people abuse the system all day. I bet you if we interviewed that guy, he would say, do you know how many people come in here with dogs saying that this is a special service dog? They just forgot the card at home. Like, I bet he gets a bunch of people who try to lie, cheat, and steal, and they use every trick in the book to get a free ride or a reduced fare. they try to use all kind of techniques, and I'm pretty sure this guy is upset, and he's able to spot when somebody is doing that. See, this is what we got to understand. We can't introduce political correctness into real life. Let that stay in the schools and let that stay in the television and all that stuff in the radio. But when it gets to no cameras around and we're in real life and we put our BS detectors on, like, come on, man, you're not disabled. You have a bad back, man. Come on. That young man right there.
First of all, the ticket collector did not know what the man was suffering from. That was Alex asking him questions, I believe, is what I heard.
Correct. And I asked him after the fact.
Yeah, and Alex couldn't tell either. I bet you couldn't tell either, could you, Alex?
Right, but my friend Mert, that doesn't make him not disabled. In other words, because you could not see it doesn't mean he was not disabled. That's the problem.
I'm going to be the bad guy. I'm going to be the bad guy here and say, I'm a side with that guy. If I can't see your disability, you're not disabled. That's what I'm going to say.
You can send your cards and letters to Mert Roberts, care of AM 970. Alex, come on, you have to educate our friend here because I think he's wrong.
Well, I've also seen it where friends who have invisible disabilities have the handicap parking sign on their car, and then people give them stares because they're not walking out of their vehicle with crutches or a power chair or a wheelchair. They're just standing on their own 2 feet, and people are like, well, why are you in the spot? I believe people have even that pass, have their reasons for having that pass. That shouldn't be questioned.
It's not for people to do that, Mert. If
Listen,
that is for the government, that is for the government. If the government's giving out passes, then that's for the government to monitor.
I've been guilty of using a handicap sign.
Oh my God!
So I know exactly what people are up to out there. So, Alex, you're trying to. I get what you're doing, but I would prioritize Alex over any other person with these asymptomatic disabilities. I want to take care of Alex first, even if Alex doesn't want me to. I want to take care of Alex first because there's a lot of nonsense going on out there with people saying one thing and it being the total opposite. It's similar to when everybody wanted to get a marijuana card all of a sudden because they had glaucoma or whatever.
Wow, Alex, you have to respond to this.
Very interesting. And no, I just think in this day, and I'm not usually politically correct, I don't feel like there's political correctness, but if I'm going to be in someone's head defined as disabled, then that person needs to be expanding their mind a little more to, yes, there are more than just physical disabilities out there, I guess is my whole point. And I went to the LIR about this because they need to know that this happened. Maybe I'm overreacting here, but I also believe the collector should be a little more understanding, and if they have to be retrained, so be it.
Yep, I think that he certainly didn't show the requisite sensitivity, and I think he was getting himself in a lot of trouble. Because maybe in this instance he was right, and this individual was a scammer. We don't know. But a lot of people, Mert, have disabilities that are not visible, and you cannot judge by appearance.
I hear that, but I'm going to be sensitive to the guy who has to take ticket after ticket and see nonsense going all day. So if he gets it wrong 1 time, 2 times out of the week, I forgive him because I'm pretty sure his job is difficult because you have so many people jumping. I heard you speak about this weeks before, quality of life crimes where, busted windows or jumping turn signals. Like, we got to stop those type of crimes to improve everything else. So if you're trying to crack down on little violations and little infractions, you're going to make mistakes sometimes.
Yeah, but it's a slippery slope, and it's a slope that can end up getting into a lot of trouble. We have a break, my friends. Boy, these hours are flying by, and when we come back, we're going to be talking to Heidi Byerly about her new book, Heidi Across America. So stay tuned.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate, on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Hi, it's Arthur Aidala. If you listen to my show regularly, you may have heard me talk about my respect for court reporters. Well, I've got some exciting news for you. The New York State Unified Court System recently held a press conference and declared court reporting as the best career you've never heard of. Why? Because they just created a position designed specifically for brand new court reporters. The court reporting trainee position allows new court reporters to enter the court system, making an annual salary upwards of $75,000 with an additional $4,600 in location pay if you live in New York City, Nassau, or Suffolk County. To qualify for the position, you don't need any working experience as a court reporter. You just need to have graduated from an approved court reporting institution and write at 225 words per minute. If you're not sure if court reporting is right for you, you can test drive the program through Plaza's free virtual A to Z program. For more information, email info@plazacollege.edu. That's info@plaza, Plaza college.edu.
I get to speak with so many people thanks to this radio show, and I got to tell you, people are getting really frustrated with car dealers in the process of buying a car. And I get it, as it can be brutal with all the games, the back and forth, the haggling. Well, if you're tired of all of that, and if you're tired of dealing with dummies every time you're in the market for a vehicle, do I have a solution for you? The guys over at Route 22 Toyota in Hillside, New Jersey have it all figured out. Alex Cancella and his team are real people. They don't waste your time. They have the entire process streamlined, and it really is the smart way to buy. Alex has all sorts of deals going on this month, but it's simple. If you're in the market for a new or used Toyota, call 973-705-8905. You tell them Piscopo sent you. Again, 973-705-8905. Tell them I sent you, and then proceed to kick yourself for not knowing about Route 22 Toyota the last 3 times you needed a car. Am I right? Get over to Route 22 Toyota, right on Route 22 West in Hillside, New Jersey, or online at route22toyota.com.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
Phew, this has been a tough show, ladies and gentlemen, but the good news is the captain has turned off the fasten seatbelt sign, so feel free to make yourself comfortable, because now we're coming into the Feel Good segment, and we have a special guest, Heidi Byerly. She's based out of Bellingham, Washington. She's a writer and an artist who's been published in a variety of publications, including National Geographic Traveler. She'll be chatting about her new book, Heidi Across America, One Woman's Journey on a Bicycle Through the Heartland. It's been described as a gritty story of homecoming and the power of an open heart to connect with people across the nation. Can't wait to speak to Heidi about that. But before we do, I wanted to add something. She has also won an award for a cowgirl outfit she made out of trash bags and duct tape. Heidi, welcome to the show. I want to hear about this outfit.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, the worst day of the year, right, is in the middle of February when the weather is supposed to be terrible. And I wanted something that was suitable for the inclement weather that we might have, but also fun. And, yeah, so I made a cowgirl outfit out of trash bags and colorful duct tape.
And you won an award for it, which is amazing. Visually, I don't know. It was in February, so it's all over your body as opposed to.
So what I did was they were white trash bags, and I used black and red and I think silver duct tape, and I made a little trash bag vest with fringe on it, and then hilarious. I made some trash bag chaps with fringe on it. So I was kind of like wearing a waterproof vest and waterproof pants.
That's hilarious. And what did you do for boots and a hat, if I may ask?
I bought a cheap kind of cowboy hat looking thing, and I cut the top of it off and fit the brim underneath my helmet, so it was my helmet with the cowboy hat brim. And then I had some winter cycling gloves that kind of looked like gauntlet gloves that you might wear riding a horse, and then I just wore my regular cycling shoes.
Sounds like fun. Let me ask you, I thought something was very interesting about your bio. You described yourself as a creepy crawler lover or something like that. What exactly is that? You love bugs?
I love bugs and spiders and, like little moles and slugs and things like that. I'm very interested in the things that are like on the ground or in the ground or things that most people are kind of creeped out by.
Yeah. So you don't mind those poisonous spiders or anything like that? You're into that?
I feel like if we have a discussion about whose space is whose, then we're all good. I did spend some time living with scorpions and brown recluses, and once I figured out what they were interested in, it was easy to keep away from them.
So scorpions don't creep you out?
I mean, they kind of do, but they're kind of interesting. They're so prehistoric and weird looking, and I don't want to sleep with them.
Oh, that's funny.
Right? I don't want them in my bed, but I don't mind checking them out.
I was in Costa Rica, and they have a lot of them. They have a lot of scorpions there. It was like, or not scorpions, I forgot what those spiders are called. Oh, it was crazy. Scary stuff. But let me ask you a dumb question. We're going to talk about the book, but this was in your bio, so it sort of fascinated me. So if there's a bug in your house or apartment, you won't kill it?
Right. I mean, there's, like, for spiders, for example, there are certain kinds of spiders that live in the house. Excuse me. And, yeah, I mean, I'll kill mosquitoes.
That's where you draw the line? The bloodsuckers?
Yeah, I feel like they haven't asked permission.
That's really good. I like that.
Yeah, but other things I'll let out. I mean, occasionally there'll be something else, like a fruit fly, for example. I might kill a fruit fly, but
fruit flies are annoying. They are so annoying. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
They deserve
but other
death.
than that, I just kind of let them be.
Death sentences for fruit flies and mosquitoes. I'm with you on that. So tell us about your book, Heidi, because I wanted to hear what inspired you. Why? First of all, you literally took a bike ride. Wait a second. Hey, Mert, can you ride a bike without training wheels? Mert.
Say that again. I got cut off for a second. Can you say that again?
Oh my God, bro. You lost like 10 seconds there. So can you ride a bike without training wheels?
Absolutely. Listen, people don't know this, but I live in Long Island. And I used to ride my bike 22 miles into the city. And I would end the ride going over the Brooklyn Bridge. It was one of the most beautiful rides ever. 22 miles there, 22 miles back just to go to work. So I have a lot of experience, and I can ride without training wheels. So, yeah.
Heidi, so you biked across America. Tell us a little bit about this. Tell us the inspiration for your book. Let's hear now about Heidi across America.
All right. Well, it was 2010 when I was living in Eugene and set off for Washington, D.C., where I was headed to Preserving the Historic Road Conference. And I was studying bicycle tourism and rural economic development on this ride as part of my my community and regional planning program at the University of Oregon that I was in. So the backstory, though, on how I wound up doing this was in 2008, when the recession hit, I was underemployed, lonely, depressed, and not feeling very good about myself or my future prospects. And I had been looking at applying for jobs as an active transportation planner, but they required a relevant degree, or a degree that I did not have. So while the economy was in the toilet, I thought, well, I'll go back to school, I'll get this degree, and, you know, in 2 years, the economy will have righted itself, and I'll get a job, and life will be dandy. And going into school, so I started school in the fall of 2009 when I was 34, and I felt like I had made the worst decision of my life doing that. The deadlines were just punishing. I couldn't hang out with my friends anymore because the schoolwork was so all-consuming, and I was just kind of going in this downward spiral. And at the end of that first term, my mom sent me an email, and I have an uncle who lives in Washington, D.C., and the email was this announcement about Preserving Historic Road Conference, and she said, hey, let's go to this conference and hang out with your uncle. And I was thinking, well, that's nice, but not really my idea of what would feel really good and nourishing to me. Like, really all I wanted to do was ride my bike. And I thought about it just a little bit. I was like, well, you know, that it's in September before the term starts. Like, maybe I could just spend my summer out on the bike getting to Washington, D.C. So I just sent kind of this flip email. I hadn't really thought about it very much. And I was like, sure, I'll ride out there and meet you. And then as soon as I sent the email, I thought, wow, that's a great idea. So on I went. I turned it into a project, and that was the impetus. But of course, you know, it's the underlying things that feel like they really drive a rash action like that, where, you know, I was really out to discover something about myself, and I certainly did that. And the research didn't cover that in the slightest. So that's what the memoir is about. It's this love letter to America. It's a story about coming to appreciate and love who you are, and both of those discoveries for me came through the interactions that I was having with the strangers I was meeting along the way, and the care and love they had for me, and also just the experience I was having being out and exposed to the elements and the creatures and the rocks and, you know, all this stuff that is America. I really started to feel like a part of something bigger and really recognize that I wasn't alone.
Now, let me ask you something. We have a minute before our break. We have a commercial break coming up. But how many miles did you cover? So our listeners can get a sense of your trip.
When I was traveling in the western states, I was averaging about 75 to 90 miles a day. And then when it got hotter in the middle of the country, it was more like 50.
Wow. And how did you pack? Did you pack light? I mean, how do you do a trip like this?
I packed I had 2 panniers on the front of my bike. I would say fairly light, but more compressible. I had an awful lot of stuff packed into those panniers, so they're kind of heavy. Everybody has a different style, but I had been advised to carry as little as was possible, because
we'll
otherwise
ask you more about that after the break. We have to cut off right now for a break, Heidi, but you will be back in just a few minutes, and we'll continue our discussion about Heidi Across America. So stay tuned. It's a great book, and you're going to want to hear more about it.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
The Caribbean is calling. Dennis Prager here. Join me on an unforgettable cruise to the Caribbean this November. Imagine 9 days of basking in the sun surrounded by the stunning beauty of a tropical paradise. We'll cruise to the vibrant islands of Half Moon Cay, Curacao, Bonaire, Turks and Caicos, and much more. Stroll through Curaçao's iconic pastel-colored shops and snorkel in Bonaire's world-class coral reefs. You'll enjoy some of the most delicious cuisine aboard Holland America's Rotterdam, a fantastic destination itself with riveting shows and breathtaking views. We'll be joined by special guest Sean McDowell, and we'll both share fresh insights, current events, discuss happiness, and our future in America in light of the election. November 29th to December 8th of this year. Secure your spot today by calling 855-565-5519 or online at pragercruise.com.
Feel like you're trying to push a boulder uphill wearing skates? If you run or manage a local business today, you're challenged like never before. We get it, and we want to help. We're Salem Surround. We're a full-service marketing agency that'll help you increase your customer base by designing incredibly effective plans to reach your consumers day, night, and everywhere they might be.
If you're a local business and want to see what Salem Surround can do for you, Google Salem Surround New York. Remember to Google Salem Surround New York today.
This is Dennis Prager, and now a truly exciting new benefit. My monthly online video get-together for Pragertopia Plus members only. For an hour each month, get an exclusive chance to ask me anything. I'll be answering your questions. I've never done this. Submit your questions for me at pragertopia.com. This is our chance to connect like never before. Go to pragertopia.com or click the banner at dennisprager.com.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
We're talking to Heidi Hirely about her new book, Heidi Across America. And Heidi, you were traveling by yourself, is that correct?
That's correct.
So weren't you concerned about your safety? I mean, I skimmed through your book, and I saw there were issues about bathrooms, lodging, and you had to deal with strangers and a lot of challenges. Tell us a little bit about what you encountered along the way so people get a sense of what's in your book.
Well, to answer your question about safety first, I was really surprised at how overwhelmingly nice people were, and they to the point where
so
I
then
felt
you
like
must not have come into contact with Mert Roberts then, but that's just an aside. I'm sorry I interrupted you. So you're saying people were very nice.
I thought if there were people who were thinking they might mess with me, they would be intimidated by my strength and ballsiness. I did have some issues on the road, and I had one encounter that made me a little uncomfortable with a person, but I felt actually very safe exceptionally safe, that there were so many people looking out for me. I did have to deal with animals as, like, things that I encountered. Some of them were very nice, and some of them, like the mosquitoes we talked about earlier, were not very nice.
Did you carry a gun?
I did not carry a gun, no.
Oh, I might have carried a gun, but, you didn't feel the need to.
I picked up a can of pepper spray when I was in Kansas because I had heard that the dogs were unfriendly to bicyclists in Kentucky.
Right.
So I did have that to defend myself from something. And I read a lot of signs about how to protect yourself from bear and cougar when I was in the western states, and nothing at all about how to defend yourself against a raptor, which I did have an encounter with, like some kind of large hawk that was not anything I was expecting or knew how to deal with.
What incited that? Why would a raptor be interested?
I think what happened is that the fledglings were out, and one was maybe on the ground. I don't know. And I think it was trying to just scare me away. But it took a while to figure that out.
Wow. Were you harmed? Were you injured or just
I was not, but I was frightened for a little while. And then I had these other wonderful things happen. Like, people wanted to offer me various things, and I started to understand that, these were, whether or not I thought I needed these things, like, just to be gracious and accept them. And one of the things people offered me was other kinds of transportation or experiences, moving places. So somebody invited me to fly in a little airplane. I was invited to ride on a motorcycle. I was invited to drive a tractor. Somebody gave me tortillas. I stayed with people. There's this organization for touring cyclists called warmshowers.org. And so I had the opportunity to stay with people in their homes in various places across the country and just really get a sample of what the local small town life was like. And I really enjoyed that.
Would you recommend a journey like the one you took for other women in particular?
I would. I mean, I know that some women are excited about going off on their own, and others are a little less excited about it. I do think it's a very transformative experience to go out on bike. I think that there's also some climate-related issues that make going coast to coast a little more challenging anymore. So one of my recommendations is just to be flexible about, maybe don't pedal every way because you might need to get yourself out of a weather-related situation.
Yes, and how did you plan for weather? I mean, did you get stuck in any bad situations weather-wise?
There was one time I got caught in a storm, but I was already in a town when I got caught in the storm, so that one wasn't very, very difficult for me to deal with. I had thought that there might be tornadoes, and then I realized that tornado season was a little later or earlier in the year, and so I didn't run into that. But I did run into a heat wave, a heat dome, before there were things called heat domes. And that was very challenging for me, and that was like the main difficulty that, I don't know, led me to all these realizations about how much other people cared about me and how much I cared about myself, and that it wasn't necessary to pedal every inch of the country, that I needed to stay alive, and to do that I had to look at a way to get out of the heat.
Now, what is slow travel? You mentioned slow travel. What is that exactly? What does that encompass?
I like to think of slow travel as like three different principles, and you could use one of them or two of them or three of them in combination. So the first principle is micro travel and mindfulness. This is the idea that you don't have to have a lot of money or a lot of time to go anywhere. So it could be as simple as like going outside and feeling the weather on your skin, or going for a walk in the neighborhood park, or going on a bike ride locally. The second one I call the journey is the destination, where the destination is of secondary importance to how you're getting there, or you might not even have a destination at all. It's like you're going on a loop ride or a walk around the block. But the transportation part of it, or the travel, is actually the experience that you're out to have, and where to be attentive to, the things that you're experiencing and noticing. And then the third one is to live somewhere else for a while, excuse me, which is the notion that the destination is important. Maybe you don't want to spend all the time that you have getting there because you want to be there and just really soak in the local culture. And this is like have low plans or no plans, or just give yourself some space to be spontaneous. So all of those things apply in one way or another during the journey I went on. But what I really love about slow travel is it makes it possible for people to make it their own. Like they find their own slow travel groove, and they can go out and experience the world in a way that really lends to a transformative experience for themselves.
Well, you mentioned in your book about tensions and in election year bringing people together. How does slow travel do that? How does slow travel unite? I don't understand that part.
Well, slow travel, I think slow travel is really encouraging an appreciation for a local place. And so if you're getting out of your comfort zone of, if you live somewhere where you're in a sort of politically homogeneous place, that this might not do much for you. But if you go somewhere where people maybe think differently than you, I think it encourages, like, what is the vibe here? What do people care about? And it really encourages interactions with local people that are really based on human-to-human connection, and not an ideological connection as might happen with politics. And when you're really connecting with people at the level of the heart and, just like curious about each other, it seems that you can, see the commonalities. We're all longing for connection, and I think that's what slow travel really encourages, is the opportunity to connect with other people and the environment around.
Heidi Across America, if you ask my opinion, it's a book about strength, resilience, achieving new milestones, surpassing boundaries, and, not accepting no, finding one's strength. It's a great book, and I commend listeners to. Where can we find Heidi Across America?
You can find Heidi Across America wherever books are sold. If you're an indie bookstore person, go there and request it, or, find it online at the usual places.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Heidi. It's been a lot of fun chatting with you, and good luck with the book. Thank you for coming on this evening.
Thanks so much for having me. I loved it.
Well, that concludes show number 5 in the can, guys. What do you think?
I think it was an awesome show. And you know what? Let's do it again next week.
I highly agree with Mert, Lucas.
I don't know. Next week's guests are Jane Weinstein and Elizabeth Hamilton Guarino, and they're going to be talking about the Success Guidebook. So if you're interested in success, and Jay is a chef, come hear about food. Join us next week. See you. Be safe.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.